some faculties in industrialized food, right, use it as a preservative. Um, there's a lot of different uh there's a lot of different context that goes into understanding pectins, right? Um, but yeah, a lot of pectins, or especially if they're naturally occurring, shouldn't be too much of a concern for people because it's always going to be associated with the natural compounds in indigenous fruits. You know what I'm saying?
And that seems to
And
be
apples and all these things.
And that seems to be the trend. Thank you for saying that. The natural composition, guys. I tell you about alkaline organic makeups, right? Versions of food, because not just pectins and lectins and carrageenan, something that people think is bad for them because they're not getting it in the proper form. And like you just said, if it's in the right form, it's not going to give you a problem. Out these things that we properly metabolize, when the ratios and the components and the structures are complete and properly balanced, for us, we utilize everything, okay, and we have minimal residue or digestive elimination buildup, minimal, when those are the factors, right? But we tend to create things that are altering that makeup and that we can't properly get what we're supposed to be getting. So carrageenan and these other guys, if people do their research and they get it in the original form, they're not going to be having these issues long term, right?
Yeah, look at um the way that we absorb food, the way that things come into our gut microbiome, and the way that our bodies handle these things, is by their natural composition. And the natural composition is complete. You don't have complications. You don't incur a lot of these problems um, that you see with like processed food, genetically modified foods, inorganic foods. Um, foods that have been created through chemical processes and things like that, um, or have been conditioned through chemical processes like that. Your body might not agree with that as well, so very well as you would have consuming indigenous foods. It's about having a complete composition naturally in that food, and you have that by consuming live foods that come from an untampered DNA structure. A lot of the foods that we could look at have you know uh, nucleotides and nucleosides missing from the DNA of whatever it is, especially if it's coming from plants. If it's a food that's plant-based or derived from a plant source, then the next question is to ask is if it's indigenous. When you look at poppy seeds, you don't find that they are a problem when you consume them because the complete molecular structure, because of the complete composition, not the molecular structure, the composition inside that poppy seed. There is opium inside the poppy seed,
Yep.
but there is not a opiate response when you eat poppy seeds because you don't you it has a complete composition. Now when they take poppy seeds in the lab to do acidification process and extract that opium, and then you have an isolated compound which is opiate, and you don't have those other components that are supposed to stabilize it in the composition of the poppy seed. Yeah, you have a drug. You have something
Exactly.
that potentially harm you. Yes. Um, it's like a battery without the anode and the cathode balancing each other out, then you just have a volatile charge. It diffuses. So, but it's carrageenan is similar because when you look into carrageenan, you find that it is the starch. Um it is the fiber that constitutes some of the most nutritious faculties of sea moss. And, well, the most significant factor of sea moss, right? The gelling factor. That's all done through the magic of carrageenan, and there are multiple kinds, and there is an amalgamated kind that most people do not even know exists, and there is a large manipulation happening in the market. Shout out to everybody on the stream right now. Tap the screen, show my brother Zen some love, and
Thank
be
you.
sure to follow my account. I got more content coming. I'm making so much stuff. I got ebooks and all kind of stuff. Me and Zen are working together, bro. We're like Goku and Vegeta, bro. Yeah, I'm telling you, we're both providing we're both bringing like yin and yang energy to it's a beautiful synergy. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Facts.
stuff I'm researching on, it complements the stuff he's researching on, the stuff he's researching on complements the stuff I'm researching. I love working with this brother. But yeah, just go back to the CMOS. But yeah, shout out to everybody on the live, man. I'm just watching the chat. But yeah, CMOS is broken down into three different levels of the carrageenan, bro. And y'all gotta understand that there is CMOS that can heal you and it's CMOS that can hurt you. It's not a joke. It's not a sales manipulative tactic. There's nothing about this. What I'm saying is innuendo. You got some fun, and that stuff right there can deter some people away, can scare people away. But when you are paying attention to brothers like Zen, when you're paying attention to brothers like me, we will not lead you astray. And the thing is, we're gonna break it down real simple, and to a point where nobody could ever lie to you again. We're gonna show you the evidence and the proof, and we're gonna strap you up, put it in your backpack, strap it to your back, and tell you to go fact check it, so you can come back and say, yeah, okay, the conviction is furthered. Because there's a lot of people playing games with people time and money these days. So whatever.
Yup.
But yeah, you got Kappa carrageenan, you have Lambda carrageenan, and you have Iota carrageenan. You have Kappa carrageenan, which is the best, probably the most nutritious for your healing process, right? The anabolic process. And then you have Lambda carrageenan, which is the worst, and that actually causes problems. The Iota carrageenan is kind of like in the middle, and it has some very unique properties, and you can find it indigenously in the sea, growing naturally. So, but that all three of those have nothing on the horrible effect that you will experience when you take polygiene. Now that is obvious to spot out because it's the stark white sea moss that you can find being sold in the international markets, right? It looks like some ghost version of ramen noodle. It looks like a lifeless zombie version of that stuff, and it's not good for you. When you consume that, it's the countdown of when you can't go to the bathroom
Wow.
because it will destroy the mucosal lining that works to allow fiber to move through your small intestine and the gastrointestinal tract. I've had so many clients that came to me like, yeah, I bought CMOS from this girl, this dude, and it was like, it looked that color that you told me to stay away from. And I ain't gonna lie, I had problems going to the bathroom, like you said, on Big O, on Facebook, on Instagram. And I've been telling people, I don't want to be invasive with that information, but you take it and you take it and do what you want to do with that information. But there is a lot of people out in, St. Lucia, China. They seeing that there's more people that becoming more health conscious here in
Yep.
these states because of coronavirus or whatever
Mm-hmm.
happened during that time of quarantine. A lot of people lost loved ones. Okay, some people um took inoculations and they will never be the same again. You got to understand, most people do not care about their health in a very serious manner, in a prioritized manner, until they start feeling pain or something goes wrong. And that's this. that's the most, I think that's one of the saddest feelings that we can feel as health practitioners, as holistic health practitioners, is to have a conversation with a client, because it's always going to be, you know, um, I have very, rest assured, all my clients are provided confidentiality, right? With whatever issues they bring to me. But some of the conversations that we have are a little heartbreaking, because we start the conversation off where they were healthy, right? And then it goes into a space where they don't know what happened, and now they're dealing with this problem, and they went and spoke to this person, that person, and that it's like a two-sided coin, because the story always starts off from a healthy space, and then the other side of the coin, they came to the holistic person last. They went
Yep.
to the room, they went to the family doctor, they went to the hospital, and they even listened to him and jumped through some of the hoops that they made him jump through. And then, when, as a last resort, when they actually started listening to their intuition, listening to their subconscious, telling them to find somebody who's into naturopathic, allopathic practitioner, who understands the anatomy of the body, which herb can rev up the immune system or quiet the immune system, create a hemodynamic response, stimulate immunoglobulins, learn how to actually modulate the environment in your body to attenuate any kind of major serious disease. You're talking to people who are not going through clinical means, but we're beating down cancer, beating down diabetes, HSV, HPV, AID. This is real life. And the fact that some people don't believe it, it's a joke. It's past a joke to me. This, I'm talking about stuff that's been done over 3 years ago. We legit. We got business. So, but yeah, we live in one of those places, man, where people are just taken advantage of through the Food and Drug Administration. Both of those things are in bed, and they don't they don't do nothing by coincidence, man. I don't
No.
believe so. Or they do they make investments to be careless with the quality of animal protein that Americans are supposed to. And
Hmm.
then when starts to set in, that's when the clinical drug pharmaceutical industries start to activate, and then they get paid more on the back end. They're both sleeping together. They're both in the bed together. They're both working in, collusion. So, you could think America is this place that, oh, they would never do that. No, trust me, they would.
Just to give
I've seen
them,
much. Zen will tell you that.
oh, you already know. Just to give everybody, wow, thank you for such a phenomenal, thorough answer as always. We're talking about what stops people from being able to understand the truth in nutrition, the truth in foods, the truth in healing. And there's several layers to it. This is a self-love heal day edition event. They come to the holistics last. It's so true. It's very difficult as a health practitioner. And that's why we want to expose you guys to some of the other things that we do. Can you give us a different type of answer right now? I want them to see exposure. I'm going to go through my, you know, ideal routine. But as far as self-love and self-care, especially like, we have times a year where we're grinding more. We maybe not getting 8 hours every single night. And then we have times where we prioritize, because when you're fasting, okay, the energy that the energy that comes around you obviously is very impactful. Your cells hear your thoughts, and
Mm,
everything is a frequency, is a vibration. Jealousy, fear, anxiety, anger, stress. You talked about a lot of stress chemicals already. What do you do? Not just maybe on a regular to stay on, but when you're especially on your cleansing mode, because we know that the organs respond to these different feelings. Thank you so much, Princess. And we want to give people the full scope. Even we're going to touch on some shadow work here, guys, shortly. And some methods like to help with that. But what do you like to do when you're focusing on self-care, and maybe you want to make sure and you're rejuvenating yourself, resetting your overall health and energy? What do you like to do?
First thing I do is get away from all EMF. I do wear a lot of tourmaline. I do use a lot of EMF blockers, non-native EMF blockers in my house. I do groundwork, I do breath work, I do meditation. Those things are personal faculties that everybody must facilitate by themselves. It's like, I don't know, snowflakes. When the temperature gets cold, it'll crystallize differently every time. It's going to be a different pattern for everybody.
Facts.
Your healing process is your placebo, it's your altar. It's going to be personal. It's going to be very personal, right?
Yep.
Some people that aren't tapped into these things do not have alternatives that would be considered in a conscious space self-love, because they would find their placebos through alcohol, drugs, sex, things
Yeah.
like this. Now, what I would also say is, grounding is phenomenal for most people that feel high levels of cellular stress in general, because most people don't ground at all.
Listen, this is such
One thing
super
that,
information. I don't want to talk through him. This is such super information. No, guys, grounding. Please keep going. My bad. Really, the
no, good,
emphasis.
good, good. I was just telling you, think about this, right? If you listen to what I'm saying, think about this. How many times have your feet actually touched the earth in the past year? Think about that for a minute. When you really understand that there is a kinetic symbiotic response that happens on a electromagnetic charge on the drop of a dime, that is something that gives you a lot of power back, because since the 19, don't quote me on this, I want to say 1890s, what, 19,
And
whenever they
kinetic.
created the rubber soles on the shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You want to say something?
In a kinetic response, he's talking about that duality of the field of the earth, along with the field that we have within our body.
Absolutely. That's actually a very, very great way of putting it. I mean, this best, probably one of the best ways, because not only is that just the faculty, that there's more than just that faculty. You
Yeah.
have electrons that are getting transferred between your body and the earth. Now, let me tell y'all something, right? Because of the stress, because of the sodium process, the NaCl process that causes your blood pressure to rise, right? Because of stress. And that stress is the trigger for a lot of that chemical process to happen. And I could go through that, but I think I talked about that the last time we was live on Big O. But basically, when you're stressed, your body creates a lot of salts at rapid levels. And the thing is, when you um damn, what was I gonna say? Basically, when you're stressed, your body creates a lot of salt. And the thing is, um dang, what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought for a second.
No, you're good. You guys, they're loving it in the crowd. I
Yeah,
love Joy. Welcome.
sorry, I got it back. The grounding. Basically, when you're stressed, right? Through the process of sodium being created in your body at rapid levels, because of the effects that cortisol hormones have
Mm-hmm.
on the cellular level, right? Because that causes you to hold on to cellular stress, and that tells your body different things because it's a hormonal thing. Cortisol is a hormone. You know, this is why some people can have their shoulders all the way up here and their tongue be stuck to the roof of their mouth and their jaws clench. And it's like the sign, the very basic signs that I look at people when I'm going grocery shopping. You know, I could literally look at the physical indications that people are holding on to stress. I could tell you, like, so many times I've had conversations and it's like I finally get what's actually bothering them out. I see these physical signs actually drop a little bit because they feel a little bit more in a safe space. A
Hmm.
lot of people feel and not only that, the stress is cascading because people can't find a placebo to release the stress. The main factor is the main deterrent is not having a safe space to vent that stress. You know what I'm saying? This is why so many people talk like they. I, I don't find it to be funny, but some people will talk about, oh, there's a solution for that. Get therapy. Actually, no, it's more holistic than you think. You know, the food may be a factor. What if they live with people who are stressful? You know, family will stress you out the most. The people we love stress us out the most. Your brother, your sister, you know, your little cousin, you gotta look out for. You always got, you know, it's because you can't put yourself first and manifest your desires so you get man infestation. That's a whole energetic spiritual dichotomy to it as well. But just not having contact with the earth through your feet or at least the hands, go hug a tree. You can ground by hugging a tree. You don't have to take your feet off, I mean your shoes off all the time. It works great that way because the uptake, a lot happens through your feet. It shoots straight up. It's a transference. But anyway, when you ground, you allow electrons to be dispatched from your body because when you're stressed, the rapid levels of sodium that's being created, the cortisol hormones that are being produced, you're actually you're actually coagulating your blood through the amount of electrons that you're building up, and that has to be released. And you can actually release it by having wood around you.
By having
Like
what?
my table is wood. Like all my
Oh,
stuff is.
he said wood. Okay.
Yeah, I did research on grounding like years ago. But it's like it yeah, if you have like a wood headboard, if you got like wood around, like wood, that I think there's a small excerpt that I want to remember, but I swear it's gonna be like, take this with a grain of salt, y'all. Like I don't forget a lot of stuff. Well, I didn't forget. It's still in my mind. It's just that it's been so long since I went through some of this information.
Yeah.
Um,
You have to.
did you ever play video games, like old video games, and you see in Japanese culture, they would put wood as one of the elements, like in Avatar. You had the earth benders, the fire benders, the water benders. There's actually like wood benders. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Wood was always one of the basic elements, and and then electricity, wood wood and electricity riding. You know what I'm saying? For Mortal Kombat, like so, wood and electricity, those were part of the basic elements. It wasn't just earth, wind, air, fire. But yeah, and there's some context to that. I was trying to remember, but yeah, wood is important. Wood is
So
wood is.
so a lot of people when they hear about, you were talking about some type of cleansing just now, that I was like, oh, but the spiritual version of that is intense too for people when it comes to like, dealing with their mental discharges, their emotional discharges. Do you find that fire breathing, I know you talked about these cornerstones, certain breath types that people really are not breathing properly out here, just that alone would be pretty life changing for a lot of people as far as self love and keeping yourself on a high level? Can we talk about diaphragmatic breathing and the DMT and how it helps with your neuro linguistic programming? because we need to get away from how we respond chemically to systems. Being is how the animals release the stress chemicals and the trauma in us that is being transferred, their torture and more. We need to work on that, and we need to have our DMT and our oxygen at a higher level, diaphragmatic breathing, activating more of the lungs. How do you feel about that in self-care and mental health?
That is actually one of the most natural responses that you can have. Do you know why animals have CB1 and CB2 receptors throughout their bodies? Actually, all mammals, all life on the planet actually has the endocannabinoid system with CB1 and CB2 receptors down to the sponge. Now, here's the thing that's fascinating about uh, the parasympathetic nervous system and diametric breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, when animals go in the wild and they hunt because they have to eat, sometimes they get injured. And this is the genesis of why we have an endocannabinoid system. Your body naturally produces cannabinoids, like, say, for instance, in the case of a lion or a lioness, after the hunt, when they actually go looking for crocodile or antelope, they may get kicked in the jaw. They may get hurt, scratched, poked by a horn or something, get bit. Now, when they're looking, after the kill and the hunt is done and complete, they're standing over the dead prey, right? And they're panting. It's not a shallow breathing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, because we hold on to cellular stress, that's an after effect as well. We do a lot of shallow breathing. We do a lot of not deep breathing, like conscious breathing, right? We do a lot of subconscious breathing. Most of the time, our breath work is controlled by our subconscious. It's like it's like blinking. You're not consciously controlling that. It's almost like your eyes are in control of that. It's like your eyes know when it's getting a little dry. Your eyelids just blink whenever it needs to be. You don't consciously control that sometimes, or at least I don't. But here's the thing: the breathing, right, is something that stimulates your blood flow. It regulates your heart's concursive and recursive waves that it produces, and it stabilizes your energy. This happens because your heart is the progenitor of your bioelectromagnetic resonance, the field, your whole
Mm-hmm.
body,
I didn't
your
know that.
whole energy. Yeah. This goes into African Aboriginal nature and the ancient Mohican uh um Hebrew, or the more Hebrew origins of some of the most esoteric understandings and text, right? And there's some more details with that, but that's basically where I got my information on that, is actually going into the study of Kemet, ancient Egyptians, because we talked about this before. Any other of these other cultures, the Muslims and the Jews that came after, they understand this as well, but it was the ancient Egyptians that understood this first. Why do you think they put the heart in a special jar and they discarded the brains in the mummification process? Because the heart, it had a very special function. And the thing is, your heart, it constitutes your bioelectromagnetic field. Your breathing, it constitutes your heart rate. The uh
That's a lottery I
the,
started.
di- the diaphragmatic breath. Um, Hold on a second.
Guys, he's going in. Talking
Yeah.
about the heart being the center of that field, of that energy. We're going to tap into scalar at some point, and these fields and how they connect with each other. I don't know if you got I should have mentioned scalar to you earlier. I forgot to mention that in the sub notes.
Oh yeah. I've seen a lot of people talking about scalar energy. I'm seeing a couple people hitting the CMOS with scalar electric energy.
It feels like
Now,
a lot of people, but I guarantee you it's just like our actual network, because outside of homeboy, outside of his work, I don't see, there's a couple of viral videos, but I don't see nobody talking about
yeah,
this.
yeah, no, Devon's different. He's unique. He's in his own lane. I got him. He added me on Facebook. I actually need to go out there in Miami. He's right there. I
He's
need to
right,
go out to Miami
bro.
and just
Bro,
hang out
I've
with.
I've told them on this platform I wanted to go to Florida for years, and they don't
Yeah,
know I'm
bro.
talking about him. I'm talking about
Bro,
I
we
want
when you come down, bro, I got a spot for you, bro. Don't even worry about it.
what?
You're real talk, real talk. We go turn up. We got so don't even worry about it,
Let's
man.
go. Let's
I got bedrooms. Don't worry about it, bro.
Wow, that's a huge blessing, bro. I appreciate the
But
invite,
not,
and I'm gonna take you up on that.
but yeah, man, come on, bro. Victor's down here too. Come on. I mean, when you get a chance this
Yeah.
year, we can plan it up, bro. We save that for later. But you just know, yeah, we building this year. The thing is,
Let's go.
though, your heart is the seat of your consciousness. The ancient Egyptians, they knew this. They said, because when you understand this, right? The heart is the first thing that forms in the gestation of the fetus in the womb. It's composed of 40,000 neurons, approximately the same neurons that constitute thinking in the brain. So the heart is your first brain.
Wow.
It's your first brain. The heart is also not separated by two hemispheres like the brain is, which represents duality. The heart is the first mind because it represents oneness.
Mm,
So, yeah, the brain is more so a dichotomy in male and females as far as the seat of consciousness, because the male brain is wired from front to back. The female brain is wired from left to front. Sorry, left to right. Can't even talk. This is why women are much better at multitasking than men are. Men do better and do well focusing on one task at a time. This is why there's passive aggressiveness in the dichotomy of some of the roles and the gender roles in modern day society. Women will Men will feel like a woman's attention is scattered and she's unfocused when that's her natural disposition. She's supposed to be cognizant of a lot of different things at the same time, while you are focusing on the main things that you're actually supposed to be focused on, like protection. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about what's that movie? Apocalypto, is it? When you look at some of those guys that were out there in that jungle, they were trained to know the jungle. They were trained to listen for breaking twigs that sounded just like, so distinct that it could be the difference between a leopard, a horse, a hippo, a pig. Like they would be so accustomed and familiar with the sounds of the jungle and the environment that they're in for protection purposes, that they would have a whole itinerary in their mind of making distinctions between sounds that they would hear for half a mile.
wow.
You know, you know how fortified, you know what type of faculties it takes in the brain to do that? Like
Yeah.
you have to naturally be created to have those ability, like to have that disposition and that potential.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
That's
that,
remarkable.
that yeah, but that's the reason and that's the distinction why we can pay attention to the heart over the mind. Like we can actually come into scenarios, right, where your brain is telling you, I know this ain't a good idea, but your heart may compel you to jump into an adventure. You know what I'm saying? Just let caution go to the wind and just see where it goes, because
Right?
your heart picks up on stuff that it can't. Your brain is broken down into hemispheres that represent emotions, music,
While we're
colors,
while
logic.
we're here
Good.
and you're going in so hard on the heart, what would you have to say for somebody who's not familiar with chakras and mudras, and your energy channeling, and how we brought up shadow work briefly. So let's shift gears really quick because we're usually, myself and you, extremely scientific, extremely textbook. But even though there's textbooks on this stuff as well too, let's go outside of the heavy clinical work and let's step a little bit more spiritual. What do you say? Because this is self love, CELF. Okay, self love. Every cell in your body responds to your thoughts, and you have gates, you have meridians, you have
Mm-hmm.
chakras. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they call this Qui-Gon, Chi, Ki, energy. There's many different references, right? What would you have to
Yep.
say? And I'm not even an expert because I'm learning more about the differences in like uh Reiki as opposed to Kundalini, and which I think they might have like some Venn diagram, some type of overlappage, and then also some type of differences as well too. But what would you have to say for those that, as far as the shadow work, we talked about deep breathing, we talked about so much nutritional, but now as far as the spiritual work with those gates, because talking about the heart, what's up, Dr. Love Jones? Talking about the heart and how pivotal it is. A lot of people
Mm.
don't even know that they're supposed to do work, color work, visual association, breathing patterns for each chakra and each level, right? So could you touch on that? Maybe starting with the heart, or whichever side you want to start from, the root
Oh yeah,
chakra.
absolutely. The meridian pathways, the different points of um the networks that flow throughout the body that extend from the energy centers that we will call chakras. But just, finishing off the last subject matter or the talking point, that's what all that had to do with breathing. You control your breathing, you control your mind, you control your heart, which controls your energy. And you make that a faculty and a practice, and you can actually elevate your energy, you can raise your frequency. But when we talk about chakras, there's an actual cool video. There's a clip, and I don't know if you ever watched I was just talking about it, but Avatar, right? Like the
I'm a
Earthbender,
diehard.
Brenda. There is an episode of the Avatar where the protagonist Aang goes to seek wisdom from one of the elders that could help him to reawaken his avatar energy, right? That episode basically broke down the purposes, the intents, and the blockages of all the different chakras that we can actually look at in the body. Now, that is something that some people may not believe in, right? Chakras. I've had actually people debate me on Big O. You weren't there, but I actually had a couple rooms where we were talking about spirituality and and energy and things like that. And a couple brothers popped in like, yeah, I believe in holistics, and they were talking, they were feeling me when I was talking about the fish and the alternatives and stuff, but they weren't feeling me when I started talking about the energy. So I started talking about um tangible things that have context with the energy. You see how they like it, because do you forget that all physical matter comes from something that is non-physical. It's metaphysical, right? All solid matter becomes comes from a frequency, a wave, literally. And
All
that's
of
a
it.
whole different quantum science. There's a whole science there. There's a
Everything
whole
is sound. Everything frequency.
there's a whole different conversation right there in itself. But when we're talking about the chakra points, how many people, in particular, also men, how many men know that there is vital glands and organs that correlate with the 7 different energy centers?
Yes, this is why I'm so glad you brought this up. I wanted to talk about how I just learned that. I didn't know that 3 months ago. I just learned that. I didn't know. I know about the glands and how important they are, but I didn't know how they correspond to the gates, the pineal, the thyroid, the pituitary, the adrenals. They all correlate. Bro, mine was blown. Mine was
Yeah,
blown.
yeah.
This
You
is
know,
how
we
real the
can,
science is. That's why he's telling y'all that. Think about the connection.
let me see. Let me
Okay.
pull this up just to get actual
Boomy. King Boomy, yes.
real context.
It was King Boomy, yes.
All right.
This is great, guys. This is the type of healing that saves people's lives. Electric Lady, welcome. The type of healing that saves people's lives and allows them to tap back into spirituality on a whole nother level once you understand how it works with, because what we know today is Western. It's not that so much is all wrong. It's a lot of it is half truths, a lot of it's incomplete. And a lot of it, you need the other side to it to really make it make sense. And then you'll learn how the real treatments work, right? The spiritual treatments as well.
Yeah. Yeah, everything that we're talking about is not innuendo. It's not hoopla. A lot of this stuff has real good, real strong context with reality. Stuff that's tangible, stuff that's physical, stuff that's graphable, and we can do all kind of different tests to validate and verify these things. And then there is the faculty of prana, right?
Prana.
That is flowing through those energy centers, the oscillation of each energy center, the energy flows around it, and this is what we know when it activates and it flows upwards through the chakra energy, um energy centers. We understand that to be the kundalini, and the energy centers are the root chakra, right? um
Yep.
You have the root chakra, which is connected to the ovaries, the testicles. You have the heart chakra, which is connected to the thymus. Um, the they don't have the names of all these here. Hold on a second.
hmm Pranayama, Kundalini, self love, y'all. If you know
Here
that
it
you
is.
have blockages and trauma that you're struggling to get over, if you know that anxiety and depression and other things, maybe you have started to do nutritional work. This is the other side of things that people are missing out on in their detoxification, in their awakening, right?
It very well could be because your mind, body, soul is a complex, right? And staples, one can affect the other if there is something that has happened in your life and incurred ramifications of trauma, right? Like for instance, like actually that's breaking off into a whole other kind. Let me finish off what I was talking about. But you have the root chakra, right? The sacral chakra, the solar plexus, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye, and the crown. The root chakra is connected to the testicles or the ovaries, right? Then you have the sacral, which is connected to the pancreas, the solar plexus, which is connected to the kidneys, right? The heart chakra, which is connected to the thymus, right? And the hypothalamus.
Mm-hmm.
You have the throat chakra, which is connected to the thyroid. All right. And this is why, man, I've been talking not today, but for the past 2 weeks, I've been going ham on consultations. I got like little thyroid. I slept wrong on my neck, and it was just
I hate
I could tell I was using my energy. I was pumping out energy like
that.
Vegeta. It's like I need a sensu bean, you know what I'm saying? I've been taking the sea moss so much late. Like the past 3 days, I've been ODing on sea moss. Not a, like
Oh,
more than my average dosage, you know what I'm saying?
I
Because I
know.
need my, you know. But anyway,
Very
um,
strong, very much needed endocrine glands. Yes, Rasta. Keep the comments coming, y'all.
the, the third eye chakra connected to the pigmula, right? The
Mhm.
hypothalamus, the hypophysis, the pingula, and the ida. And then you have the third eye chakra. You have the crown chakra, which is connected to the pineal gland. And these all have you know faculties
Color.
where they have issues, you know, and they definitely do affect your body, like the root.
Corresponding colors as well.
Corresponding colors as well. And correspond, they also correspond with parts of your body, like your root corresponds with your spinal column, your bones, your legs,
Yes.
uh, rectum, your intestine, your blood, your adrenal gland. Man, you learn something about these energy centers.
Wow.
Now, I'm not gonna say I learned something. It's probably not. It's probably not. Yeah, let's keep it family friendly. But you know,
The truth is the
like
truth. They need
some
to
of these,
know.
you know, we talk about stimulating a woman's energy. You know what I'm saying? As men, man, some of this stuff this is you need to get books on chakra, bro. You gotta you gotta. It takes an energetic man. It takes a man that is cognizant of a woman's anatomy and her energy centers to actually properly administer and to get
Yes.
that response. But anyway, you got the sacral chakra, the other chakras, connected to the reproductive organs, kidneys, ovaries. Then you have the throat chakra connected to the voice, throat, upper part of the lungs, the thyroid, parathyroid, uh you know, the crown chakra connected to the brain, skull, pineal. So there's a whole interface, a whole network of meridian pathways, and they correlate to a lot of these energy centers do correlate to a lot of parts of the body. And when you do focus and build your energy, you see um like I have a like a breakdown in my notes of like a timeline of when the energy builds up and it starts to stimulate all of these different parts of your body. Like if you were to just allow your energy to cultivate itself, right? Like when we talk about semen retention, right? When we talk about meditation and breath work, we talk about grounding, we talk about alkalinity, taking sea moss, things like that, eating whole foods,
Can you
live electric foods. All of these things build your energy up. And the longer you do it, the more you can stimulate these energy centers and the more you can get a response from the physical organs. And and
a
this is
lot
where
of a lot of
vitality
a lot of
created
people
throughout.
said there's too much semen retention. I don't is there such thing as too much? Like it could be bad at a
It,
certain.
it depends because I've had this conversation with brothers before, and I had a couple dudes that gave me some wild perspectives. You know, yes, there is also the whole understanding behind some of the reasons why some of these dudes were so surgical about it is because what's some people believe that the your seminal fluid, right, is constituted by cerebral spinal fluid.
Yes,
Actually not accurate. you
really.
Yeah, you actually do have con you have parts, you have components that are contributed towards your seminal vessels and
Mhm.
your semen production from CFS, CSF. But when you remove cerebral spinal fluid by just 5 or 10 cc's, you get a massive headache.
Massive.
So that's obviously not true, right? It's not
Oh,
by just it's not constituted by cerebral spinal fluid. There's much more that goes into a man's essence, his ejaculate, right? But this is just something that people had been kind of using as a logical reason behind semen retention. Now the thing is, your cerebral spinal fluid, it constitutes some very interesting things like DMT.
uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um
Which is activated through your pranayama with your deep breathing. Keep going.
Facts. And that is one way of men to build their energy up. Now, too much is something going on like 3 months, 6. Now, all right. Here's this. Here's. Let me just say this, right?
Uh-huh.
This whole process, right? Let me flip the camera around because I just pulled this up. I ain't really. I was working on something
Hi,
else.
Jag. Hi,
My computer.
BM. That's a great shot there.
All these energy centers, right? Starts from the bottom, right? Say for instance, we're just talking about semen retention, right?
Mm-hmm.
From day one, your energy, it's almost like a drip. It's like imagine this a big vertical picture, and your energy is like dripping in there, filling that container. The longer you let it build up, the higher the threshold will go.
Exactly.
It's like a beaker, right? It's like a tubular container. And your energy that you're retaining is just building up every day. And it's dripping at a slow drip, and it builds up, and the energy starts to swerve and circulate through the energy centers, and it goes up. By the time it gets to here, starting from day one, we're looking at about 8 months. 8 months. All right.
Wow.
Dudes that go on semen retention for years, dudes that went through their early 20s, never doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, they weren't even sexually charged because they weren't getting revved up. Like, men are kind of like generators. You know what I'm saying? You get the wheel spinning, it might generate electricity and it keeps going. Some men lose control because we live in an overstimulated, sexually stimulated society. We do.
Very
But
much so. And we're going to actually do go in a whole day on the dangers of porn and the benefits of healthy sexual practices as opposed to like we're going to touch a little bit on pelvic floor. In my next question, I wanted to talk about some of the practices you like to use to strengthen your semen retention practicing.
but it's not just about that, because women do have cerebral spinal fluid as well.
That's why it's
Um,
not just for men beneficially, it's for the women as well too.
exactly. There is so much more to this, like this whole energy
Oh my goodness.
building up thing that I just broken
Oh my
down.
goodness.
It's not about semen. You know what I'm saying? It's about the vitality that your body contributes to produce it. Because I mean,
Yes.
you're producing a living thing. You know what I'm saying? Like your
Yes.
spermatozoa are living. They're alive. There's millions of them. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, there's another side to that conversation where there's a health ramification for the guys that want to go months and months and months and months in retaining. You know what I'm saying? Your girlfriend's about to break up. You don't even want to touch her. You know what I'm saying? Like it's dudes I've had conversations with, and it's like they get it backwards. They get a little twisted. Like you can't just and not like like they'll tell brothers, they'll tell men, you do semen retention, your testosterone will rise. That's innuendo because it stops after 2 weeks. It regulates itself after 14 days, and your testosterone will not just start to go up, skyrocket. After 2 weeks, it stabilizes, man. You're not going on semen retention for months and then hoping to become the Hulk.
I
You're
was
not. You're
wondering because I know people, release and still build muscle, still build mass. So it's like
exactly.
what people are saying, not even just release, over release, Leo, over release. And speaking of over release, could you give a range for the men that are listening that
You,
where you would say a healthy, I don't know if there is, this
I,
often.
yeah, I actually gave that whole breakdown to brothers last year.
Oh,
Let me tell y'all. Let me tell you something, right? And I'm gonna tiptoe about what or around what I'm about to say because I want to keep it family friendly. There is a podcast called No Jumper, right?
heard of it.
It's a white dude, basically brings on very interesting individuals. People who used to be bouncers in nightclubs, ex strippers, Guys who used to do, all kind of different things, work for the government, whatever. You work for the prison, correctional facility, whatever. Seen crazy stuff. Come on the show and tell, just share stories and stuff. He brought on porn stars one time, some of the most famous dudes, like from the old days. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's this dude named Brian Pumper, right? He got kicked out of the whole industry for acting weird and being a pervert and doing weird stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not even gonna talk about that. But when you look at these guys and you listen to them talk about their stories, and they talk about it's a small part where they talk about how they got into the industry, right? And these dudes will talk about it in a somewhat degenerate way, but I take it with a holistic lens, like rose colored lens, and I take from it what I can use to process thought. And he said, a lot of these guys say stuff along the same lines. I got into it because I was a super horny dude. Dudes just literally said on the podcast, like, man, I'm at school, I'm in college, I'm with this girl, that girl, I'm jerking off 10 times a day. Dang, I might as well just shoot porn. And that's what some of these guys have said on these podcasts, and I started to think like, and also, uh, these guys are not they're big on muscle. They got muscle. You know what I'm saying? And not only that, there's a lot of different implications when it comes to muscle, right? How many of these guys overload on IGF-1? IGF-1 doesn't just tell your whole body to get bigger than it's supposed to, it tells your muscles to get bigger than it's supposed to too.
And people
Your
don't know why it's so
big,
dangerous at all.
and your muscles will actually be more susceptible to rips and tears and ligaments being actually damaged, like severe damage. This is why some of these guys can be so strong and their muscles would detach from the bone,
Mm-hmm.
and
We've
they'll
seen
and
it.
literally that's what the guy that was super, I forgot his name, super strong dude from back in the day. He's dealing with so many muscle amalgamations right now. He can't even walk straight because all he loaded up on nothing but steak, animal protein.
And I constantly talk about how fit does not mean healthy. A lot of these guys,
Does
keto, dropping dead of heart attacks. Shout out to everybody in the room. I know some people wanted to come up. We will be doing a panel segment within the next 20 to 30 minutes. We wanted to switch at some point over to a panel. I mean, I'm not sure if we're still going to do it by 9:30 because we wanted to invite people in and get involved in this self-love discussion.
Mm.
I appreciate you, Dr. Love Jones. I see you still looking to come up. This is a holistic. This is a special event. This is somebody that, you know, we have access to him, but I really built up for a while to get to this conversation and get this, flowing. So I wanted to make sure and fully pick his brain before we open it up. But we definitely going to do that. So I appreciate y'all. If anybody wants to get more questions in or y'all want to hop on a panel with us, we'll even watch some other content, on YouTube. We can take turns pulling up some shorter clips and things of that nature and talking
Yeah,
about our journey.
and get into the context. Shout out to everybody watching the stream. Happy Love Day to everybody. We appreciate all the support. Make sure
Absolutely.
y'all stream. Give me a follow. I'm gonna be on Big O, engaging, more active, moving forward, and we're gonna be having more of these great conversations and builds,
Absolutely.
and get down to the root cause of a lot of the issues that people are dealing with. Man, it's not about anything else,
For
So
real. For real. Thank y'all so much. And if you have a question, fly a bullet or don't be shy. Talk to your guys. So on retention and energy, everything being
oh,
frequency. Go ahead.
I just to kind of like give a like final answer on that because I was just kind of going through the information.
Yeah, yeah.
When you go through like your the conversations over it, right? Some guys will say, "Oh, I do it for the energy preservation. I do it because I want to raise my testosterone." Well, there's actual information that's clinical data and actually validation of what extents or potential it has when you talk about that, those faculties. Testosterone is not going to continue to just shoot up the more you retain your semen. It stabilizes over to after 14 days.
That would be bad if it didn't regulate.
Exactly. That's actually something that would be like too much of a cheat code for men. You
Yeah.
know, I want people to understand the level of of security around testosterone research that the government has on right now is almost the same thing that you would find at the NSA. Like,
Wow.
do you understand that there are scientists right now? Like, if you are in half of the testosterone research that I'm doing, anybody that's watching this, some of the stories are freaky. They are disturbing because you have people that work in these facilities that are getting scripts and ordering lethal, poisonous chemicals. And not only that, they're using them for non-company purposes. They're using them to commit murders in the same facilities as occurred. Testosterone research was occurring, and they had more security on the testosterone in the locker than they had in these some of these dudes that's killing their wives. I'm telling you, like, it's a story of a scientist working in the same facility as a scientist that was been doing testosterone research during the pandemic. Dude ordered a whole bunch of cyanide, all kind of crazy stuff right under the company's nose, bruh. Put it in his wife's coffee. She had a heart attack at a Zumba class. All right.
What?
The dude that was doing the research on testosterone was right down the hall from the office the dude that did was working out of. And they had security watching him more than ever. Anybody that was on an administrative level in a company that was doing these types of levels, these types of the research, right? And we're talking about government agencies.
Yeah.
They should have picked up on the abnormally large script of potentially of human lethal human. You know what I'm saying, like this stuff can kill people. It should be on a red list where, like, we need to know why you need this, why you need this much. Like, it don't matter if you have somebody that's been in the company for 20, 30, 40 years. If
Yeah.
they order, like, 100 cc's of cyanide out of, like, just randomly, that should cause some administrative concern. Like, why?
You know,
Instead,
there's a lot of holes like that. Like the president had confidential files, CIA files, classified documents hanging out all over his house. They said, like,
yeah, and it's crazy. Like, this it's almost like a kid it's like a big kid with unlimited power. They don't even care about stuff that, like, the focus is so tunnel vision because they have, like, federal bureau